is a photograph. I think my mother took it a number of years ago of the train in Depot Park in Sanford. And I painted it actually quite largely, like 3 by 4 feet in oil paintings. But it's one of my favorite pictures because I really like trains and I think it's very patriotic. So I have gone ahead and made a detailed drawing of it. And I'm going to approach this train with direct painting. It's not my favorite method, but I think for ink painting, when we have all of these different colors and all these details, it might be easier on a scale like this to not do a lot of masking. And probably with the whites in here and some of the pure reds, I'm uncomfortable just completely relying on lifting. So my first thing I'm going to do is lighten the drawing and then pour in the background sky. So even if I'll be painting, with the tiny brush, the rest of the piece, I think I'd like this sky to be smooth. And the easiest way of doing that is pouring it. So first I'm lightening the drawing. And this is alcohol on the cotton swab. For the sky, I'm going to use alcohol and cloudy blue and just kind of drop it in this area back this way. I'm going to let it dry vertically and I'm going to pull off whatever that yellow is. So for the direct painting method, we will be using some ink in the weld palette and the brush, as well as some markers. And I will say on a piece like this with a lot of detail, it's very attractive to want to use the markers for laying in the color because I'll have the most control over where to put the ink. So I tend to prefer to just use the bottled ink, but in this case, I really think the markers are going to be a great choice. So I've selected some colors that are in the tan to dark gray range, and then some that are in the kind of brick to red range, and some that are in the blues. And I think this will complement the bottled inks that I end up using in the end. But we're going to start with, I think, this kind of a pale tan color. And I'd like to add in the mortar and then some of the little sandier areas in here. So this is the marker. This is kind of a deep brickish red. It's probably darker than we need, but I will want to lift this out anyway. I'm going to just fill in the bricks. This is also a brick building, and I'm going to just add in some of the bricks color here. This is kind of another brownish gray. I'm going to use it for the base layer of the roof. And of course our roof will have lots of different variety of shades of color, but this will give us our first color. For the train, I've got, this is a very dark, dark gray. I'm going to put in the darkest colors, and then I think we'll probably just lay in 3 colors, kind of a dark color, kind of a mid blue, and then the lightest blue. And I'll come down to the fence here. This is a deep kind of a turquoise blue. And I'll use it for the main part of the body of the train, which again will probably be somewhere in between these colors, but it'll give us some structure here. Use the same color on the iron fence. This is kind of a lighter blue. I'm going to use it for some of the shadow in the white areas of the bunting. As we're laying in color, there's also some green that needs to go in. We've got a sign here and some of the details on the building, plus the leaves. And I'm just going to use the pistachio as kind of a middle green. I have a very limited options for green in my markers. So we're almost through our laying in of color. And I noticed, of course, that I should have kept the bricks going all the way behind this fence. So I'll add in some more color this way. So I still need to add in the red stripes and the blue stripes. And I'm going to use red pepper for the red. And this is the denim for the blue. And the big thing I need to do with the blue is to not go over the stars. So I'm going to add some eggplant to this denim here and create something reasonably dark. And then go back through with the brush and kind of try to darken some of these areas. So I deliberately left some of the details kind of unpainted through here. I think I'm going to just sacrifice them for the moment and pull them back out. I think I'd rather just work on making the train be a kind of a dimensional whole. Use the same dark mixture to add some values into the building here. And come through the fencing here to soften this a little bit. I'll also use this in some of the blue to darken some of these areas. So now that we've laid in our base color with the markers and some of the brush and ink, I'm going to try to soften and blend this so it doesn't look like quite as markery as it does. So this is just the alcohol and the pointed cotton swab. And I'm going to go back through the mortar. I'm going to continue softening with the building. I'll go around the building and then come back to the train. Now I'll soften and kind of lift out some of the lighter parts of the train. And I'll pull a few highlights in the red, but mostly we'll be actually need to just add darker lights into the red, I think. So now that we have kind of laid in the color and done a little bit of softening with it, I would like to liven it up a little bit, and I'm going to start with some splattering. So this is the alcohol in the 1-inch chip brush. And I'd like to add some color by splattering some ink. And this is Poppy Field with the toothbrush. And I've gone over the white, which might have been a mistake. Well, we'll just have to be careful about that red in the white area. Now that the Poppy Field is out, I'm going to go ahead and use it to darken some of the reds. I'm going to pop in some of this red. There's some flowers back here. This is terracotta. I'm going to put a drop of terracotta in with the Poppy Field and use that to add a little bit more intensity to some of the bricks. Also pop this color into some parts of the building. This is Flamingo, and I'm going to add more of the reds. And I'll pop a little bit of this in the brick as well. And a few dabs of it up in the roof. This is indigo, and it tends to be very overpowering. I'm going to put one drop of it in the weld palette and then add in some more denim with it. So this is the combination of denim and indigo. Got some alcohol here, and I'm going to put it in the weld palette. I'm going to try to smooth over some of these edges. Just bring in a slightly lighter blue version here. I'm going to pop in some of this indigo into the train. This is Cloudy Blue. I'm going to use it for some of the lighter parts of the train. It should both kind of lighten and soften at the same time. Kind of running through the red splatters, but it gives us a little bit of purple, which is kind of nice. This is the eggplant again. I'm taking some of the cloudy blue and dabbing it with the pistachio. I'd like to kind of darken this a little bit. Take another lifting pass with the cotton swab, and then I'm going to tighten it up with the black pen, I think. I'm actually going to start with the sepia pen. I'm going to do a little bit of lifting through the white, which just to break up some of this blue, which of course runs the risk of running into the pink, but I'm going to risk it. Now as we get closer, I'd like to do some more splattering, this time with the Pinata Brass. So now that the brass is on, I'm going to go back and do some lifting. And I forgot I wanted to add this tree, so we'll just dab it in with some green marker here. And I'll lift some texture through it. A little bit more lifting through the train. I think I'll use this gold pen to pop in the numbers. This is a dark pen, dark marker. I think we need to go back in and add just a few darker values. As I'm coming around, I'm thinking that's not quite dark enough. And we'll softly blend those without just destroying them. We'll do some lifting through the bunting. And in the blue. And I'll do a little bit with the white pen. There's actually a little highlighting on the 12. I'm going to let it rest here and see what I think about it in a little bit. So this painting has been sitting around for a month, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to fix it or start over again, really to the point that I've gotten out a new piece of paper to try again. But I think I'm going to take a few minutes and say, let's give it half an hour, and can I fix it? So here's what we're going to look at. Some of the things that I don't like are the splattering, and the gold actually looks kind of cool. You can kind of see it that way, but in the sun. But in, you know, just looking flat on it, I'm not sure I like it at all. But that's really not something I can fix at this point because it's kind of on there. But what I can do is work on some of the values and intensity. So I'd like to add more color into the bunting and really bring that forward. And I'd like to add more dark values in the train and really kind of create more roundness in it. And it also seems a bit kind of clunky and messy. So I'm going to try to straighten out some of those lines and just pull it together. And if that works, that's great. And if not, we'll just start over. I'm going to begin with this black Micron pen and just try to clean up a little bit. And back to this side, one thing I noticed is that the top of this railing is not straight, and it needs to be straight. So I've got a ruler here. I'm just going to straighten it out, and I'll have to do a little surgery on it, I think, to kind of figure out. This is the darkest gray of the markers, and I'm going to use it to fill in a little bit more some of the areas that didn't quite get any ink. This is a slightly lighter shade. I'm coming to the front of the train here. And blend up a little bit from this dark area. This is the pointy swab and some alcohol. I'm just going to blend in some of these lines. And there is a bar here that I kind of colored through. Blue marker for some of the bunting here, the blue part. And this is a very dark blue, so we'll see if I can use it for some of the more shadow areas. And I'm going to do the same for the reds. The red marker, and I'm not sure if I want to use the red ink. The bottled red ink is so bright that, you know, it's very tempting to want to go there. But let me see what I can do with just the marker. So I put a little poppy field in the palette, and I just can't resist the intensity of this color. Now it's pretty blotchy, so I feel like I need to make some effort to kind of bring it together. So I'm just going to go over it a little bit. This is that cotton swab and alcohol. I also want to do a little lifting in the numbers. I just want to fill in some of the space on this side. So another last minute touch. I think I'll just lighten this a little bit. So I took it downstairs, and there's a couple of tiny tweaks I wanted to make. One, I wanted to blend this better, kind of abruptly goes from one shade to the other. So I'm going to put a little bit more ink on and then take it back off and see if I can more gently blend this. I also want to work on the very front of the train. and my numbers are just not in the center. So let's see if I can kind of just readjust some of the front parts of it to get the circles kind of more concentric. They're at an angle, which is probably why it doesn't look centered. But we still need to kind of fix it. And also tidy up this lighter patch that I lifted. Just kind of adjust the numbers a little bit. This is the gold pen. This is the fine black pen. This is a lighter gray. And some alcohol on the cotton swab. And the black pen. I'm going to use this black pen to add, there's some much smaller parts on the train that I've kind of neglected. And I think I'll stop here.